This is the form for PERMA with the instructions and guidance from our PERMA Risk Management Department team. My name is Ed Starowicz, and I am the DPW specialist with PERMA, and I will be giving you all the information on how to fill out the incident review form. The guidance for filling out the form, this is the PERMA Risk Management Form, as I noted, that could be used by our members when they're completed at safety meetings, and it will also be able to assist PERMA in the data collection of information so that we could share across all of our membership if we begin to find unique situations with our membership on incidents that are common across the gamut of our PERMA membership. We are asking you to complete all the required workers' compensation forms that are out there, especially the first report of injury with the C2F form. So no matter what happens, we want to make sure that those are completed first. This form becomes a secondary form, but a very important form. So we want to make sure that you get all of those items completed first, submit those to the PERMA team, and get them completed. So there's a minimal amount of lag time and that we get all that information submitted to us. This incident review form should be completed, though, as soon as possible after the incident. Once all information and statements are completed, and you've got all of the parties involved available to get the information from them. One example that I'm going to throw out there is if a person happens to be injured, we don't want you going to their home to try to get information. Wait for them to come back to work, wait till everything is in order, and then you can go from there to get all the information captured. Now, in this case, there's going to be two forms that are available. One is an electronic fillable PDF with drop-down menus for those of you that are computer savvy and electronic savvy. It's a very nice way of doing business, but from a presentation standpoint, I wanted to use the Word document because it shows all of the identifiable items that are out there on the printed document and gives the people the ability to get that information identified and listed versus trying to go through a fillable PDF where I would be clicking and showing. This best method with the Word document gives every bit of information and gets it completed very nicely. The bottom line on this whole situation, though, is to drill down to reach one root cause. That's the biggest thing that you want to do. You're going to have all kinds of information, but you want to drive to one specific cause, because when we get to that cause, we are then able to say, okay, we've got that, we know what it is, now we can try to resolve it so that it never happens again. So that's the bottom line that we're trying to get to here with this operation of the and the filling out of the form. On the form, I'll just give you some general information. Page 1 is just general incident data. Page 2 includes all contributing factors. And I will be going through them in detail, but this is just the overview. Page 3, there's more factors and more root cause options that are out there. We're trying to drill down, so that's why it may seem like a lot of information, but once you do one of these and you go through it, you'll get the drift of how you want to fill it out and make sure everything is good. You get through the page 3, then page 4, again, more root cause, and then the supervisor info signatures. It's a highlighted box. And it says, one of the items on there, it says when completed, send the document to PERMA at the email address noted there. You can hold off on sending that immediately if you want to, because you may not have all the information. So I wanted to clarify one of the things that when you get everything completed, you've got all the resolutions, it might be 2 to 3 weeks before you finally get everything where you've met with everyone and everything is in order. At that point, then you can send the email or fax it or however you want to do it to get it to us so that then we can compile the data into our databases and make sure that everything occurs properly. The final one is bringing closure to the analysis. Now, you've done all the work on pages 1, 2, 3, and 4, And on this last page, we then try to get you to identify how are you going to get resolution so that it never happens again. And you go through a process of identifying all of the engineering controls, management controls, and anything else that is affected. There are action item boxes on here and who it's assigned to. I will say that there is not a lot of space available on these boxes. You may have to include a separate sheet that would identify who might be the action person if there was multiple people, because it won't fit in these boxes. And at a later point, we'll go through all of that too. So that should give you the gist of what's driving the 5-page document and how to get you through it. And then there's more to come. With the general data, we'll start here with this part of it in the incident review form. Again, it's just the data that you need to come in with the employee, who was involved, date of incident, locations, and anything you can give us that would help us with it. One item noted at the top of the box is if it was an injury, an illness, or a near miss. Some people are using this form for near misses, and that is excellent. If you want to do that, it will help out to identify a problem. Many times people have something happen and they want to identify it and go through the process. This is a perfect way to do it. So this will help you get through that entire process and make it work. With the next page, you've got items on here with the MV104A. Our public safety person, Lou Moskowitz, has identified a need to make sure that the 104A is completed, because sometimes our members do not get that completed, and it creates a problem with the Department of Motor Vehicles. Anything where you have damage over $1,000 assumed, you should consider filling this out and have your staff complete it. And submit that copy to us, because that would be fantastic information to also assist us. Sometimes people miss something, and as we go through that and review that information, it's one additional piece that would help us possibly determine a root cause if we did not get all the detailed information that we needed. And it also will help you to serve as a reminder to close out your liability insurance issues with your staff on the side of a motor vehicle accident. The other thing you want to do is make sure that witness statements are collected from each individual. We are suggesting that you separate the witnesses so that they don't compare their stories and you get specific individual information from those people. So that would be one of the best ways to do that, with completing the MV104A and then getting your witness statements.
In the next section, any specific body parts that were injured, we would like to have you do that to complete any locations where a person may have injured their head, neck, face. With the shoulders, arms, elbows, and things like that, we would like to know if it's right, left, or both. On the printed form, we would appreciate it if you check off the boxes and circle the right, left, or both. On the fillable form, at least for now, use the Adobe highlight tool to select the injured body part. We will be attempting to get a drop-down menu included in that later on. But for now, that would be the greatest thing if you could do that. And that will help us determine all of the body parts that were affected. We would like you to then describe the injuries in detail. On the printed form, you write the injury detail, and if needed, add a second sheet of paper noting the detail. There are only 3 lines, but you may have all kinds of information that you need to include, so please add that. And then on the fillable form, type in the details of the injury. Injury details should include a brief account of what happened, when the injury occurred, what the injured worker was doing, when it happened, and who else was involved. We also would like to know on the initial treatment, if you could fill in with the facility name and check the type of facility that they went to. They may have a situation where it's only first aid and there was no facility visited. Please check that box, or if there was none, put that in there. But if you go to an urgent care or a different clinic or the emergency room or some other facility, please do that, or if they went to their own physician. So that will assist us in the use for our patient advocates to be able to draw on more information from your review. We get into the contributing factors. This is where we start to drill down into what was really the cause that affected the injury. So many incidents have underlying factors not related to an employee's actions that may have caused this incident. In this section, we attempt to try to determine things like ice, snow, potholes, other factors. And as you notice here, the environmentals are animal, fire, ice, insect, plant, potholes, rain, roots, snow and slush, street and curbs, uneven terrain, and wind. So if you were getting out of a car as an example, and there was slush and snow on the ground and you slipped on that, that would be one of the boxes that you would check. If there was uneven terrain where you're stepping out of a police car, and the possibility is that there was an embankment that you were parked over and it was uneven and you stepped out and you fell down, we would ask you to check that box. So if that gives you an assist with how to move forward with filling it out, that would be fantastic. In the workplace, there could be also other contributing factors that are out there. There are a list of possibilities that we have found that could support that type of situation. So as you review the list, ask yourself questions about the incident. You know, I thought John was trained to use the respirator, but am I sure? You know, you got to ask those questions. So things like you might have in your workplace, it could have been an aggressive worker or a client. You have customers at many town clerk situations where the town clerk has somebody that comes in and they're upset over taxes and they become an aggressive client. So that should be checked. If there was things with air quality or ventilation, awkward positions are usually found in water and sewer trench digs where pipes are inside of a trench box and workers are in the awkward positions and they're trying to move around and they get hurt. So you would check that. If there was broken or faulty equipment, if something was not operating properly, you'd want to make sure that you've got those taken care of. If you've got a poor location where debris and clutter and congestion are prevalent in the situation, that would be out there. If somebody did not do the proper lockout tagout, failure to de-energize equipment before servicing is a key factor. If there was some type of a forceful movement, guarding not in place, that's pretty self-explanatory. You've got maybe a compressor that was running with belts and there's no guards over the belts. Horseplay, negligence, I mean, those are self-explanatory. Those are also potentially disciplinary actions on your part. If you use improper use of equipment, somebody did not use the proper PPE. Maybe they had safety glasses on, but they weren't Z87. If you had improper, inadequate footwear, that one comes to mind usually when you have somebody that may be paving and they're using sneakers as their footwear and they get burned on their feet because they didn't have the proper footwear on. You know, you have asphalt that's 320 degrees and you know, you're working around that, and at least the proper footwear, the safety shoes and the steel-toed shoes, a lot of times they're set for that to be able to at least handle some of that higher temperature. If there's inadequate equipment on the job, inadequate staffing, insufficient supervision, you have to look at those and ask yourself, did I have the right amount of people on the job? Were my managers involved in the work process? If they're not, if all they do is put a list out in the morning and that's the last you see of your supervisor, you may have some management issues, so you want to check that box. If there was a need for a handrail and it was lacking, if there was a lack of policy enforcement, you've got policies in place, but no one cares to follow them, and your managers don't do anything. If you're in that situation, please check that box. Lack of proper PPE supplied. You just don't supply the PPE to your people. Simple examples, they don't have any safety glasses or gloves or ear protection, you know, and you just don't take the time to give it to them. If you have no written procedures, that would be a box you check next. In your buildings, if you have poor lighting, if your days are long where you may have a 10-hour day, and or some locations have 12-hour days. So in those cases, you may have to look at when the injury occurred, and if it happens to be a long day, was it in the 10th or 11th hour of the day, or was it multiple days and your injuries are occurring in the fourth 10-hour day or 12-hour day that you're on. Noise could be a factor if you're working in noise situations. Obstructed views. A lot of times you can't see people in a loader or a backhoe. Some points on your trucks, the person is backing and they have no view because of obstructions just for the sheer size of the equipment that they're working in. If there was overhead work, poor repair of stairs, prior corrective actions not in place, something you've done that you were supposed to take care of and you did not get it taken care of, and now it's crept up and caused a second injury. You might have people that have had prior injuries. They had a knee injury because they were doing something and they came back, did the same job, and nothing was changed, no procedures were changed, and they've had that same injury and it's the same knee even. So that's where you are with those. I hope that covers that part of it. We're going to move on to some more in the workplace and the root causes. So really what you got to keep doing is asking questions to drill down to the root cause. And in the root cause, you've got motor vehicle accidents. That would be checking that box if it was an accident. If there's anything electrical, please check that one. Examples, though, are like for slips, trips, and falls on the same level. Did the person injured exit a vehicle? Were they running? And that's the kind of things you need to ask yourself as you go through how you review a situation with an incident review. If your gut kind of tells you, take a look at it a little deeper. If you simply suspect something might have caused the injury, check it off. We can go back later on and figure it out. We can also help you if you need consultation. Please feel free to call me or any of your other PERMA representatives that you feel comfortable giving a call to, and we'll go through it with you. But again, examples here fall from different levels, elevations. If you're on a equipment or a vehicle, a lot of that one is from loaders and equipment that is high up. The back areas of trucks, many people climb onto the back ends of dump trucks. They get onto the back wheels, they climb onto the middle cap, climb onto the top of the back wheel, and then try to shimmy up onto the outside of a truck. If that's it, and they fall, that's a fall from an elevation. Ladders and scaffolding are self-explanatory. Stairs. If you went into an opening, if you had a manhole that was open and not protected, and they fell into that would be into an opening. Slips, trips, and falls at the same level. So you're exiting a vehicle if you're running. If there's some unsafe condition, you might have water on the ground or something like that, which would then be covered in another area here. All of those would then come together to help us and you determine what could be the root cause and how could we prevent it from ever happening again. Objects handled. Again, you're in an awkward position. If you're holding or carrying something, if you're pushing or pulling maybe a pallet mule or something like that, was somebody throwing something? Were they using a shovel and they were trying to throw dirt up into a pile and they hurt their shoulder? There's occupational exposures with chemicals, electrical, and excessive cold, inhalation, lighting, and noise. With that, we would go on to the last part, where in the filling of the form, we want to have the person completing. We want to know who we might have to talk to if we had to go back to it. So this section is filled out by the supervisor or safety coordinator completing the form. You fill in your date, your title, and sign off on it. And then you would send the completed form to PERMA at the incident review at perma.org, or if you only have faxes, fax it to 516-535-4949. So that would be for the first parts of it. Then, once you've got all your information filled out, and you've now come down to the point where you've got boxes checked, you then go back to those boxes and you review it to find out, let's see, where were things that I need to change and what could we do? Now, some of them could be engineering controls. You may need to have a situation where a welder had smoke inhalation because he may not have had proper equipment on, but he also was operating where he was welding and he had no fume hood. So if that was one of the things, maybe one of your engineering controls as an action item would be that you would install fume hoods or install fans to be used when any work is done by that. You would assign it to a key point person, and that point person would then be able to to be the manager of the resolution that is out there. And once it was completed, you'd put a completion date in there. Management controls, those types of things are in a situation where maybe the shift work is part of the problem. So you would then have management controls put in place where maybe you're working a 12-hour shift and you decide we're always fatigued at the end of 10 hours, so we're going to cut our day back from 12 to 10. Those are the kind of things that you need to look at from a management control standpoint. The third one is personal protective equipment that's out there, and you're trying to put fixes in place there to prevent it from ever happening again with the personal protective equipment, because you've done the engineering controls, you've done the management controls, and your last resort is the personal protective equipment. So you want to have that in place to make a note that maybe your employees never used the equipment, you didn't know it, and you went through this whole review and you found out, my gosh, we don't have that, and now we're going to need it. So that would be your action item to put in place, that you now need to use that protective equipment. Initially, when the assigned to person for that would be, you would have a lead person who would procure the equipment, and then you would have to have training and policies in place and everything else. So that person would be the point person to make sure all of those things are taken care of, and then a completion date when that was taken care of. And the improvement strategies includes policies, programs, plans, processes, and procedures that are out there. So any of those things that would need something to be taken care of, where you may need to change a policy, or maybe you didn't have a bloodborne pathogen program that when you drilled down and found out what's going on, you needed to have that. So you'd have to initiate that program. Again, you need to have a person. They don't need to do all the work, but they need to be the point person to ensure that it's completed. So you want to make sure that you assign a responsible person to each action item. Don't just give it to anyone, but someone that would be able to carry it through and would have some leadership skills to ensure that it was completed properly. So those are key factors. The other things that you want to have out there, fixes that are instituted can be temporary or permanent. Now, no matter what, you want to make sure you've got a temporary fix in place. Even though you can't prevent it from happening totally into the future, at this moment, at least you're going to do something where there's a temporary fix. And then if you needed to update procedures or whatever, if you needed to get the job done, you would make it so that they are operating safely, but they're operating with a procedure that maybe hasn't been totally officially approved by all your safety team and everyone else, but an entire group that's there is in agreement that it'll work in the temporary mode. So those are the kind of things where you want to get it temporarily done, but then the resolution is to make it permanent so that it never happens again. And then you want to take the corrective actions. Give us any documentation of what you're doing, that you did perform the training that may be needed. Give us copies of training sheets, because that helps us then to gather that information. And with all of this documentation, it helps us and you and our members. So if you have a unique situation, we can share it with others. If we start to see a pattern going on amongst all of our members, we can then get all of that information together and be able to come to a conclusion that there may be a global issue that's occurring with all of our members, and we would try to get other people involved, and maybe there's some resolution that we need to do to get involved to stop it from ever happening again. But you're going to want to make sure you've got employee reviews in place if you change procedures, and you want to also take it up the chain of command and make sure that everything is signed off by all of your people. We always talk about it as top-down leadership. That's where your town supervisor, your mayor, your boards, and everyone else, if you had a situation where an incident occurred, you want to let them know about it and make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on, what was put in place, the procedures that were taken, the changes that were made, the policies that were done, and get them all to be included in that. And then in any trainings, you want to go from the top down. Your town supervisor should be trained just like anyone else if it's something that they do on a daily basis. So if there was just a general type of incident that occurred with maybe a slip, trip, or fall in the town hall, you want to let everyone know about it. So that from the town supervisor down, all the way down to the lowest worker that you've got, plus part-timers and volunteers, all should be included in that. When your incident analysis report is complete, attach everything together with that, and then the report should be sent to PERMA via the means that we noted. And then one of the last things that you would do is then you would take that entire form of information that you've got and review it at your next safety meeting and share it with the entire staff once the resolution is achieved. Now, a lot of times at a safety meeting, you might have, if you've got 5 departments, you might only have 5 department heads, your safety coordinator, and maybe the town supervisor there. So you want to make sure that it is disseminated to all the people in all of the departments at a tailgate meeting, or just as a general note, if you're sharing with your town boards and supervisors, let them know by making a copy of it and handing it to them and let them review it. Those are key ways that everyone from the top down is then involved in it and knows what's going on. And then the last thing, finally, once the review is complete and ensure, like we said, the top-down management is involved and they are in support of the safety program, all parties involved should sign off with the review. So in this case here, you want the direct supervisor. If there's a department head, you want that person in there, the safety coordinator. And then the principal executive officer is the mayor or the town supervisor or the water authority chairman or whoever you've got that's the chief person. So that would be the way we'd want to have that taken care of. And that would include everyone and then have the knowledge from the top down. In the review of this form, it's to help the members drill down to the root cause of accidents, and it's to resolve the cause to prevent future occurrences. Overall, the PERMA risk management staff will be using the forms to review and analyze and determine trends impacting the membership as a whole. Possible resolutions will be shared with all members to reduce injuries for everyone. If you have questions with any of these things, please feel free to email me at estarowicz@neami.com or give me a call at 585-622-6854, and I will help you out and assist you in any way I can with any of your questions or issues. And I hope that helps. Thank you. Have a great day. Take care.